Surfside. I have an Etsy shop where I sell surf and beach inspired jewelry, and I also have an Instagram account which is Alma Surfside 7. So if you want to check out my shop and follow me on Instagram, you can keep up with my latest work. And I just want to welcome everybody back to my channel and to another tutorial. I have a beaded necklace that I wanted to go over with you today, and it's a rectangular shape that repeats, and it's very inexpensive to do because what I've used is just 3 different types of beads. So I'll go over the supplies that you'll need for this project. First of all, you'll need Fireline or Wildfire in 6-pound or 0.006 inches. That's the one I always go to just because it's very easy to work with, especially with the 15/0 seed beads. It just helps to have, a thinner type of thread to go through those multiple times. And the next item that I have on my mat here are number 2 bugles. So I've used number 2 bugle crystal silver lined. Okay. And if you're using Miyukis, they're about 5 millimeters. Okay. The next item on my mat here are 15/0 seed beads, and these are in opaque white luster. Okay, so they have a bit of a sheen on them. And then finally, the last bead that we're going to use is 15/0 silver galvanized, and these are by Toho. Okay, so that's what they look like. So again, you only need 3 types of beads, and you can also grab yourself a lobster claw for the closure, and you'll also need 2 jump rings, okay, just to finish off your piece. I always finish off the necklaces with, a circle or semicircle, just because that's the easiest way to finish off a piece. Okay, so grab your materials and then let's get started. Okay, so in the intro I forgot to mention that it's also useful to have flat nose pliers to work with the jump rings and the lobster claw. That's just for the closure. And it's also useful to have your scissors to cut your thread as needed. I always start with an arm's length worth of thread and then I add on as needed. But the plan for today is to go over 2 of the rectangular units. Okay, so the necklace is made up of individual rectangles, and then the last step was to go through and sew all of those rectangles together. So because you're working from the inside out, it's not a project that you would work on continuously. Okay, so basically you're going to have a bunch of different rectangles sitting on your mat until the very end of the project, and then you end up sewing them together using a simple connector. Okay, so let's go through the rectangle a couple of times so you get the hang of it, and then we'll sew together 2 of those rectangles, and then you can carry on in the same way. So I have my beading needle attached to my beading thread. Okay, so I'm going to start by picking up 2 of the bugle beads and pushing them down on my thread. Okay, so I'm going to leave about a 2 or 3 inch tail just so that I have enough room to tie it off when I'm done. I'm going to insert my needle into the very first bugle that I put on my thread. Okay, so the idea is that you have 2 bugles sitting side by side, and then you can reinforce it by taking your needle and going down the bugle on the right, go up the other bugle on the left, and that just reinforces that unit, okay? And now I'm going to pick up another bugle bead, and I'm going to go down the opposite side of the bugle. Okay, so the tail's coming out of the bottom. I'm going to go up down the top and pull on my needle. Okay, so now all 3 bugles are sitting side by side, and I'm just going to reinforce it by going up the right and then down the one in the middle. Okay, so that made it a little bit stronger. And then I'm going to insert my needle into the bottom right. There we go. So my tail's coming out here on the left, and my main thread is coming out of the top on the right. Okay, that's what you should have. Now we're going to pick up a total of 3 white 15 beads. Okay, or I should say size 15 beads. Now I'm coming out of the bugle bead on the far left, and I'm going to insert my needle into the bugle on the far right. Okay, so skipping the one in the middle and going down the one on the far right. There we go. I'm going to pick up 3 more of my white size 15 beads, and I'm going to go through the opposite side of the bugle. Okay, so that the beads are going to sit on the outside of my rectangle. There we go. I'm going to rotate my shape, and I'm going to repeat. So I'm going to add another 3 of my size 15s to my needle. I'm going to skip the bugle in the center, and I'm going to go down the bugle on the far right. Okay, so over here. There we go, so our shape is coming along. I have 3 on the top and bottom and 3 on the left. Now I'm ready for 3 more on the right hand side. So I'm coming out of the top of the bugle, and I'm going to pick up another 3. And I'm going to go through the opposite side. Okay, so that's what you should have. You should have 15/0 seed beads on all sides of your rectangle. And now what I want you to do is to put your needle into the first 15/0 bead that's sitting there at the top. Okay, I want you to pick up 3 more of your white seed beads. And I want you to skip the one in the middle and go down the white bead on the far right. As I'm doing this, I'm also going to put my needle into the bugle bead so that I can reach the other side. Okay, so that's what we have. Insert your needle into the first white bead there at the top. And then pick up 3 more of your white beads. And skip the one in the middle and go down the one on the far right, as well as the bugle bead. Okay, so that's the shape that you should have. Okay, and now what I want you to do is insert your needle down the 3 beads that are on the far right side of your shape. Rotate your shape. Now you're going to pick up 2 of the 15/0 seed beads. Okay, these are in silver. So this is just going to be our contrast color for the design that I've come up with. And now you're going to insert your needle into the first bead sitting at the top there. Okay, so let me see if I can get a good angle. There we go. Okay, so see how that sits? It sits on the outside corner. take your needle and go down another 2 of the white seed beads sitting at the very top. Okay, so I'm coming out of this one here. I'm going to pick up 2 more of my silvers, and I'm going to go down the far right hand side. Okay, so you can see that the top part of our shape is already done, and we just need to continue doing the same thing at the bottom. So pick up another 2, and I'm going to go through the very first bead sitting there at the top. Okay. Go down the other 2 beads. And pick up 2 more of the silver beads and carry on down the 3 white seed beads. Okay, so that's our shape. It's complete. Everything's being filled in. Okay, and it's all sitting nice and tight together. And then so at this point you're just going to tie off your thread. So I'll go down another 2 beads. Okay, I went down the other 2 silvers, and then I'm going to insert my needle inside of my shape, and I'm going to tie a knot right there. Pull on it tight, and then pick up your scissors and cut off the excess thread. Okay, and then what you can do with the tail that you started off with is just to go through one of the beads on the outside. Okay. So basically it's easier if you can get your thread to the outside ring of your shape, and then you can go on the inside. Okay, and then just do a knot. There we go. Okay, and then once you've finished knotting it, cut off the excess thread. Okay, so that's your completed shape, and you can leave it on your mat. Okay, and now I'm ready to do another unit. Okay, so I'm going to pick up 2 of my bugle beads and push them down on my thread. Again, you're going to leave about a 2 or 3 inch tail just so that you can tie it off at the end. Go up through the first bugle bead, and we're going to reinforce that. Okay, so they're sitting side by side, but what you want to do is put your needle down the one on the right and go back up the bugle bead on the left. Okay, that just makes it stronger. There we go, so those are sitting nice and tight, side by side. And now we're going to pick up another number 2 bugle, and we're going to go down the opposite side. Okay, there we go. So all 3 should be sitting side by side now. And again, reinforce it by going up the bottom of the bugle on the far right. And then you can go down the bugle bead that's sitting there in the center. Okay, so that's done. Go up the bugle bead on the far right. And now we're ready to adorn the rectangle, okay, by using 3 of the number 15 seed beads. Okay, you can go up the bottom of the right hand bugle pull it tight. And now we're going to do the top part, so pick up 3 more of your white beads. Go down the bugle on the far right hand side. Okay, so I've skipped the one in the middle and I'm going down the one on the far right. Okay, we can pick up 3 more of our beads in white. Go through the opposite side of the bugle. Okay, now our side has been attached and we're ready to do the final section of our rectangle there at the top. Pick up 3 more. Okay, rotate your shape if it's easier to work with. Skip the bugle in the middle and go down the one on the far right. Okay, there we go. I'm going to insert my needle up the first white seed bead that's sitting there on the right. And I'm going to pick up 3 more of my white beads. And I'm going to go down the bead that's sitting there on the far right, as well as the bugle. Okay. So that's what you should have. Now I'm going to insert my needle up the white bead and pick up 3 more of my white beads. And I'm going to go down the white seed bead as well as the bugle. Okay, so that's the shape that you should have by now. Okay, so you have 2 layers on the top and bottom, and then 1 layer on each side of your rectangle. Okay, I'm going to go down the 3 seed beads sitting on the far right. And now I'm ready to adorn with the silver 15/0 beads. So pick up 2, and I'm going to go through this bead here, okay, sitting at the top. I'm going to carry on down through the 2 on the right, again at the top. Okay, pick up 2 more of my silvers. And I'm going to go down the 3 seed beads sitting there on the far right. Rotate my shape. Pick up 2 more of the 15/0s in silver. And 2 more to finish it off. Okay, so now that I have my last 2 silver beads, I'm just going to go down 2 of my white seed beads on the side, right there, and I'm going to insert my knot on the inside. Okay, there we go. Now I can cut off my excess thread. And of course with the tail, with the initial thread that you started with, you can go down one of the white beads and just try to thread it towards the outside of your shape. Okay, so I'm going to try to get down one of these white seed beads. or maybe a couple of them, just sitting on the outside so that it's easier to tuck my thread in and then knot it off. Okay, so now that I've knotted it off, I'm ready to cut off the excess thread. Okay, there we go. So now we have the 2 units that are finished and we're ready to sew them together. So to sew them together, what you're going to do is insert your thread into the top part of one of the rectangular shapes. And the goal is to get our needle through the white bead that's sitting there in the center of the very top row. Okay, so you can create a knot on one side of that center bead. Actually, I would do a double knot, so you can do over and under. Okay, and then I'm going to put my needle through the bead there, as I mentioned, the one that's sitting in the center. Okay, so my needle's coming out of the right hand side of that bead. What I'll do to make it easier is just cut off my excess thread. There we go, get rid of that. And then I'm going to pick up one of my silver beads right here. I'm going to pick up my other completed rectangle and I'm going to go through the center white bead, okay, that's sitting there at the top. Pull down on my thread. Okay, so you can see how these two are getting sewn together. And then I'm going to pick up another silver bead, this one here, and I'm going to go through the opposite side of that bead here. Okay, right there. Okay, so that basically creates a connector. I've got 2 silver beads on the outside, and then my thread is going through both of the center beads, you know, in the top row of each rectangle. To reinforce it, I'm just going to go through the silver and the white, and then the silver and white again. Okay, so see how that sits together? They're connected there in the middle. Okay, and as you're doing this process, I use one continuous thread and I carry on the outside of each rectangle until I get to the top center bead, and then I repeat it again to attach the next unit. Okay, so that you're not constantly knotting on and, you know, cutting off excess thread. It's just easier to continue with one long thread as you're connecting all of the pieces together. Okay, so that is the end of the first part of our tutorial, and now I'm going to show you how to do the closure. So once you have the right length, what you're going to do is get your necklace and attach your beading needle to the very last unit. And then we're going to do a semicircle to finish it off. Okay, so you'll notice that the closure on this side is a total of 5 of the silver beads. Okay, and that's enough to create a big enough circle for the jump ring. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to go through the opposite side of the bead there sitting in the center. Okay, So that creates my semicircle. I can reinforce it by going through all of those beads. And then back through the center white bead. Okay, so that finishes it. Okay, and then I'm going to carry down through two of the beads, okay, the white and the silver. And then I'm ready to create a knot here on the inside of my shape. Okay, if you want to create another knot, you can go ahead and do that. So you can go down a couple more beads. And create another knot on the inside. Okay, so we've got two really good knots there, and I'm going to cut off the excess thread. Okay, I've got my flat nose pliers here, and I'm going to pick up a jump ring. Open it up, insert it into my semicircle, and close it. And then I have my other jump ring, which I'm going to open up, and this time we're going to add a lobster claw before inserting it into the semicircle. Okay, there we go. So to attach it, I'm going to open up the lobster claw and insert it into the jump ring, and that's how we finish off our necklace. Okay, so that's the completed necklace, and it's pretty straightforward. You're just adorning the outside of your bugle beads over and over again, and it's a repetitive pattern, so it's very relaxing. It's not too difficult to pull it off. And I hope you really enjoyed making it. I can imagine that there's going to be a number of different color combinations that you can work with and make it look really stunning. I always like to go with neutral colors just because it goes well with a lot of different clothing. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial. I hope that you guys will take a minute to like and comment and of course subscribe. I'm hoping to grow the channel in this coming year, so it would be really great if you could subscribe and keep up with my latest designs. Okay, anyways, have a great one, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.